Sup fellow quacks. So in today's video I'm going to be giving a tutorial on how I name my OCs. Hopefully these methods will help because I know naming OCs can be just as hard, if not harder, than designing them. So let's dive right into my first method. So name generators are basically just these things or like websites where you can just press a button and boom, a bunch of random names show up. These have existed for years, so I know that some people might hear generator and think AI. It's not. There are AI name generators, and I suggest you avoid them because they suck. Because like I've tried using them out just to see what they're like, and yeah, they're just no. Plus, there's like way more variety of like actual non-AI name generators for like a variety of things, not just like character names. You can get names for titles, like if you want a magical girl character and you're like, I don't know what to name this character, like I don't know what their magical girl title could be. Boom, magical girl titles are all over the place. Or if you want a character that's like a knight, there are knight name generators, you know, or a superhero or anything like that. So name generators are definitely very helpful if you're like in a pinch and you need ideas for titles along with just character names. I recommend springhall.net, Seventh Sanctum, and fantasy name generators. Those are like my top 3 favorites because they have been like around for years, so obviously they're pretty reputable, and also because they have a lot of variety for like different ideas. So basically what I'm getting at is that name generator sites are definitely great for like if you're feeling a little lazy or if you're just like I can't think of anything, then they can definitely help with naming things aside from just characters but also other things as well. The point is that it's pretty good as long as you're like okay with certain things being random, and that you might have to dig around a little bit or you might have to like keep cooking until you find something that you like. It can definitely be a bit of a challenge at times, but if you keep going at it, you'll eventually find like the real gem of a name that you've been looking for. So on to the next method. So baby name websites and Pinterest. So for baby name websites, these are definitely something that I love to use the most because I name my OCs with like meaning behind them. I like to give my characters some thought behind their names most of the time, so outside of like the silly ones or the ones with made up names, because I think that giving them something with like meaning behind their names can add to like their personality or like their backstory in some way, which is definitely like something you should go in mind with when you're going on these websites, is that you should go in mind with like what is this character's like personality, what is their backstory. I know that in real life, like when you name a baby, you know, they don't have a backstory or personality yet, so obviously you can't base their name off of vibes, but like since this is your OC and they're already pre-made, you can do that. So like if you have a character that's very gentle, sweet, and like is, I don't know, an elf or something like that, you might want to find names that mean something like green or peace or serenity or something like that. And you have a character that's very like angry or aggressive or like very passionate about something, you want to pick names that are related to like fire or the color red or warrior type names, you know? So those are what baby name sites are for. It's definitely for like if you have something in mind and the name generator sites aren't working and you need something specific that like exists. Name generator sites do have like names that do exist, but also they have made up stuff as well. The one issue with baby name sites is that you can definitely end up in a rabbit hole. If you find one name, you're like, oh, this name's pretty good. But then you find another name, you're like, oh, this name's also pretty good. And then you just find more names that you love, and you're like, oh man, these are so many great names. I want to name all my OCs after this. And then you can't pick. This is also the same issue with the Pinterest option as well, which is kind of similar, where you look up names like, I don't know, insert aesthetic name, then names, and then you're gonna find like a bunch of like aesthetic image with text on top of it with the name and the meaning underneath. That can definitely be helpful. The problem is though is that there are so many names that it can be very overwhelming and like difficult because there are so many good names that you're like, I can't choose. So I would just say if you ever reach this point, you have to kind of go based off of vibes. Like, does this character look like this? Or does this character look more like that? You can also do like a poll or ask your friends or whatever, be like, hey, which name fits this character best? If you have like a few names that you really, really like. Because that can definitely be really difficult when it comes to this method. Anyway, I hope this method helps. This is definitely a very like time-consuming one. On to the next one. So for this part, naming your characters after like certain types of puns could definitely be very helpful if you want something more lighthearted, comedic. For theme names, this isn't always the case, but it can be. It really depends on the vibe you're going for. But it can also be more serious if you're not in the mood for like super goofy names. So for puns are usually meant to be like very funny, on the nose, make your eye roll a little bit. When I played Dragon Quest games, a lot of the characters had punny names. Like there was a character in Dragon Quest 6 called Matt Tress. Like his name was Matt and his last name was Tress. And I was like, it makes you want to like, you know, facepalm, but it's so goofy that it's funny. So names like that can definitely be helpful if that's what you're going for. And I think that they can be pretty fun. So for those, you would just take like a word and then you would just try to figure out a way to like split it, usually in half for like a first name and a last name. And then you would just turn it into a name. Not all words I feel like can do this well, or if you do try, you can also split it into like a first, middle, and last name. Like, for example, the word microphone. Now, obviously no one's gonna be named Micro, but you could split it into a punny name by calling the character Mike, Crow, and then Phone as a last name. Now, Phone is obviously a really stupid last name, but like the point is that we split the name into 3. So now his name is Mike Phone, but the crow in the middle, boom, new middle name. So yeah, with puns, it can definitely be a bit of a word game, I guess. Also, for like inspiration, you could take inspiration from like drag queen names, because I think a lot of them have like punny names as well, or they're named after something like kind of popular. But yeah, they can definitely be a good source of inspiration since, who doesn't love good pun? Now, I'm not entirely sure if this counts as like puns, but it's in the same boat, but like names that rhyme in some sort of way, like like have a character named Hannah Banana, something very alliterative can also kind of be, it's in the same boat as just being very funny, goofy sounding, if that's what you're going for. Rhyming names are also pretty good if you want something lighthearted. Now, when it comes to themed names, this is a bit more, well, depending on what you're going for, this can be very easy or it can be very difficult. I say that because it depends on how complex your theme is. If you're going for like something where you might have to dig for like different name ideas for like your theme, then yeah, it might be hard. But if it's like something really simple, like, okay, we're gonna name this group of 3 characters after primary colors. So this main character is going to be named like Red, the yellow character be named like, I don't know, Daisy, because like yellow Daisy, and then the blue character be named something like Sapphire or Azure or Sky, something like that, where it's a little on the nose, but also like it alludes to the colors in some sort of way. Theme names also are pretty great for like groups of characters, so like if you have a lot, it can be helpful for like having an entire theme, so that way everything is like tied in some sort of way. This is definitely very good for like magical girl characters, or like characters that are like, I don't know, fighting as a team or something like that. Some theme ideas that are commonly used are like food, zodiacs, colors, gemstones, plants, the elements, things like that. So that is definitely something that can be helpful when coming up with names, is for like puns and for themes. I don't know, this part is a little but I hope this somewhat helped. So for this method, making shit up is definitely for like people who are just either done because the other methods didn't work, or if you're just like, I like making up my own character names because it's fun. So when it comes to making up character names, you're gonna have to use a lot of like inspiration from other sources to like get into your head to come up with ideas. Now, for ideas for making up names, there is definitely a lot of inspiration that you can do. For example, there are definitely a lot of pieces of media where there are made up names, and you can take inspiration from those. Example that I like for like character names would be Hunter x Hunter, because I don't know, something about the names of the characters in Hunter x Hunter just really, I vibe with a lot for some reason. Like, the entire Zoldyck family has such really fun sounding names. Like, if you notice, they all have like this certain scheme to them. They all have 2 L's. For example, Killua, Aluka, Miluki, Illumi, Kaluto. Like, they all sound very similar, but they're all very different, and they're all made up. And that's what I love about those names. So if you want some help to sort of jog your brain a little bit, having some sort of like type of thing in your names, like certain letters. Like, let's say you want your name to have like era at the end of it or something like that, or 2 A's or several I's. That can also help a little bit. You can also just combine 2 names together to get something completely new. This one just kind of feels like the final boss of all the other methods combined, if you really think about it. You could also just take like an existing name and just like rearrange certain letters or cut off a certain part. Again, this is just like similar to the other methods, but like its own thing. Now, for names that aren't like super made up or fantasy sounding or whatever, you could also just combine 2 words and just have like the character's name be like nouns. For example, Blue Birthday's name is literally just a color and a noun. You could have a character's naming scheme be something like that, where it doesn't have to be made up in the sense of it being like Killua. It could be made up in the sense that you just took 2 words together and like, okay, this character's name is blank blank. If you want to be really silly and goofy, you can also just have your character have like a really long name that's just like a bunch of words or something like that. I don't know. Or you could name the character after like a meme or whatever. Like, at this point, this is the point where you like just have fun with it. Have fun with it. If you want to make up a character name and it just is like the goofiest shit ever, then do that as well. The whole point of making shit up in this whole section is just to throw whatever is at the wall, and whatever sticks, it sticks, you know? Like I said, it's like the final boss of all the other name methods combined. So I don't know what else to say. I hope that helped in some sort of way. Naming OCs can definitely be very fun, but also a very daunting task, and I hope that this video helped in some way. I'll see you quacks later, and enjoy naming your characters.